Hello everybody, welcome to Little Rusty Bucket. Subscribe to the channel and drop a like on this video, and check us out over on Patreon if you would like to join the Discord to participate in Discord hot takes. So let's go ahead and get into this week's. From S. Nas Reed will be an all-star in 2027. With Randall coming into better form recently, we'll see how this all plays out, but I can't imagine a world in which Reed is starting next year and putting up all-star numbers a year after that, with some growth in the meantime. Not a guarantee by any stretch, but let a woman dream. Holy shit, we got a woman in the Discord server. Let's go. Yeah, I think that's plausible. I think Nas Reed exists in a very comfortable space in the NBA right now, which is there's this perfect intersection between being really good and clearly capable of a little bit more, but also because of that and because your role is reduced, people focus entirely on the good stuff that you do. Whereas when met with all-star level expectation, the understanding that you're supposed to be providing a all-star level impact, suddenly you start to kind of fall apart under that pressure. Or, you know, maybe he'll just handle it super well. But I think Nas's defense, his playmaking at times, that stuff that, like, even just how he scores the ball would change a lot if he was a second option on the team as opposed to the sixth man. But that said, I am a big believer in Nas Reed. I just think we need to be a little careful before just going that far, but you're not wrong to think it's on the table. From Dr. Theo, Nikola Jokic has already passed Larry Bird as the better player of their mold. Just to be clear, I say all the time that Luka Doncic, Larry Bird, and Nikola Jokic are more or less the same basketball player. The difference is just their position and their era. But, you know, the idea of just unstoppable one-on-one, great playmaker plus white boy, boom, you got the mold. Just he had perfected the archetype of the unassuming, modestly athletic white player who dominates with elite processing speed, court awareness, and shooting touch. But Jokic does it with a larger frame, allowing him to see over more players and bully more defenders, an even better shooting touch, bringing in historical efficiency and a level of court vision that rivals Magic Johnson himself, still within the Bird-like player model. With 3 MVPs and a Finals MVP, he already matched Bird in major individual accolades. The only separator is championships, with the difficulty of repeating in the modern era. If the Nuggets win a second, then Jokic isn't just better, he's greater. Wow, that's definitely an interesting take. I don't think you are completely off base with this one. I do think there is an argument to be made that the center position, it benefits Jokic a lot, though he also ends up getting more criticism because of the defensive end of the floor, at least as how they serve as offensive engines. I think Nikola Jokic is the best of the Jokic, Bird, Luka model because he just has the highest degree of unstoppability, which is kind of just my largest metric for how much I value an offensive player. How much of you missing a shot is because you missed it versus because the defense made you miss it. If the defense is at your mercy, at the mercy of how your shooting touch is feeling that game, that's a pretty fucking powerful force. So, yes, Nikola Jokic, does he have a case for being better than Bird? I absolutely believe so. Does he have the possibility of passing him? Yeah, I think he does. Dwayne Wade doesn't get enough credit for how good of a person he is. From Space Toast, I agree with this, but I also am always wary of just proclaiming that a celebrity that I do not know is a good person. But I have super appreciated how Dwayne Wade has supported his daughter. So shout out to him for that. From G, this isn't really a hot take, but people who list assists before rebounds when showcasing stats need to be burned at the stake. Well, here's the problem with that, G. I do that all the time. And you know why? Sometimes rebound stats don't matter if it's like a guard. So I'll just do 29 points per game, then 10 assists per game, and then 4 rebounds, because it's just kind of, I always do it in the order of how much it matters. But then again, I'm also not going to list efficiency first and foremost, so I don't know that I have an exact science to this, but I don't know. I don't think it's that ridiculous. You just need to, as long as you clarify, like, between the stats, if it's just number slash number slash number slash, then yeah, that's fucking annoying, but you'll never see me do that. From James, It's spelled weird, but it's really funny. Okay, so I don't know if this will be received well, but here it goes. I think the Minnesota Timberwolves are at minimum going to the conference finals again, if not the NBA finals, and I think that the combination of Anthony Edwards and other guards playing very efficient and well-rounded modern styles of basketball, as well as Randall and Gobert figuring out how to play off of each other, and those two kind of feel like an earlier 2000s style of big man basketball as far as their chemistry is concerned. Basically, what I'm saying is I think the Timberwolves are going to make a lot of noise this year and be a bigger problem than any of us realize. If there is a team that absolutely has no hype at all to the idea, no people discussing really the idea of them being a contender, it's probably the Minnesota Timberwolves. Like, I think the Lakers, even recently the Clippers and the Warriors, but especially the Lakers and the Warriors, have been in contender conversations. The Denver Nuggets, because they have Jokic, people will still throw them into that. People have checked out on the Minnesota Timberwolves, and they haven't seen how good they've played lately. Now, I am very, very skeptical as to that ability to hold that up throughout the playoffs, but I do have enough confidence that if they did completely shock people, I would not be the most shocked person in that crowd, but I'd still be pretty fucking shocked. Not a bad take, though. Definitely agreeable. Wow, this is a D-Lo take from D-Lo Strongest Soldier. D-Lo has got to be one of the biggest underachievers as a player while still being a decent player. Okay, so you're still turning this around to a compliment. A consistent 17 to 21 points per game on okay efficiency and decent playmaking in the regular season, but the fact is he probably is one of the worst playoff droppers of all time, same tier as Julius Randle and Jamal Crawford. It just makes all the genuine value that he has not worth it, but I think he's a top 5 NBA player looks-wise. I think he's cute. I mean, he's definitely up there, especially when his beard started to grow, when he wasn't just doing the little chin hair thing that guys who can't grow a beard yet love to do. He's a pretty good looking guy. I fuck with the blonde locks. A lot of people don't. I think it looks great. So I agree. Objectively, or at least from my point of view, D'Angelo Russell's pretty hot. However, I disagree with you on the idea of his floor in the regular season being like really good. The fact of the matter is the reason D'Angelo Russell never became that good as a basketball player is because he's afraid of contact. That's the end of it. The end of it. In fact, as I am saying this out loud, I am mad that we did not use him as an example in the deep dive that we're currently using about foul merchants and why it's a stupid argument because it makes you a worse basketball player. D'Angelo Russell is a perfect example of this because if you're a guard who relies entirely on your jump shot, if you have an off shooting night, you have nothing that you can really bring to the table. You may still maintain some level of gravity as a shooter just based on your reputation, but there is a point where you need to actually make the shots, and D'Lo consistently does not reach that threshold. And when that's not happening, especially when he's playing alongside LeBron James, his playmaking doesn't end up being all that valuable. His playmaking is less valuable because his scoring gravity is less significant than it could be. So it all compounds on itself where you have everything besides for any level of dog in you for driving towards the basket, and that is just a highly, highly limiting factor that cannot really be overcome other than just by simply being on fire long enough. The thing about D'Angelo Russell in the playoffs is you kind of get these spurts where he's good. He has a game where he, has 18 points, goes 4 for 5 from 3 or some shit. And then he has games where he completely disappears. Well, actually, I don't think disappears is the right term. I mean, he doesn't do good on offense, but you can see that motherfucker. You can see what he's doing on both ends of the floor, and it's a fucking disaster. So yeah, if you're a guard who only shoots jump shots and you have no physicality, you have no rim gravity, you have no willingness to lean into contact, you do not have a great floor. You especially don't have a great floor if your jump shot is off. If your jump shot is off, you actively become a net negative player, and the best guys in the league do not become bad basketball players the moment that their jump shot's off. Like, Jason Tatum was really good throughout the entirety of the 2024 championship run. Not as good as he could have been, but very good altogether, and he shot 28% from 3 for the entire series. He got all of them. He got outscored by Jaylen Brown in the Eastern Conference Finals and the Finals. But when Jason Tatum's jump shot's not dropping, he's one of the most versatile defenders and really, really, really good perimeter defenders in the NBA. He is an excellent and super underrated playmaker, and he gets to the rim and gets a decent volume of free throws. So even if he has a game where he's shooting 20% from the field, he will be a net positive impact player. Obviously, D'Angelo Russell never got to the tier, and you don't need to get to Jason Tatum tier of well-rounded to be able to not be a negative with a bad shooting game. But that's more hard for guards, and D'Lo never got anywhere near having the all-around game to make up for it. From Idra, if Seattle gets an expansion franchise, that franchise should inherit 100% of the Sonics history. There should be able to retire Gary Payton's jersey, and then OKC can still be its own thing. Yeah, I agree 100%. Good take. I don't know what you redacted here. What's that about? Also, fuck the Thunder in general besides my Pookie Russell Westbrook. All right, man. Good one. From Jay, the Sixers aren't as screwed as people say. Obviously, PG has been a flop, and Embiid's injuries are catching up to him, but it seems like people forgot they have Maxey and McCain sometimes. If McCain turns out to be an offensive juggernaut like he's shown flashes of and Maxey stays himself, just having those two could make you a good offense. Embiid may not be himself after injury, but I'm sure he could at least be a decent enough defender to anchor that side, and even if he's 70% of what he was, he's a fine third option. I kind of disagree with that because I think defensively his floor gets significantly worse when he is a lot slower and a lot less athletic than he has been earlier in his career. I think he's gotten worse as a defender over the last couple of years because of that factor, just because of how much wear and tear he's carried on his body. So I don't know that he'd be a good enough defender to anchor that side of the floor, especially if he's asked to take up a lot of that responsibility and not give him real good point of attack defenders, as the Sixers have done for many years, when he's like, he can be an anchor who gets you a top 10 defense, but he can't be an anchor who gets you a top 5 one on his own. So they treat him like he's one of those guys when he's not quite in that tier as a defender, but we're moving on beyond that. Then you could relegate Paul George to being a catch-and-shoot 3-and-D wing, which I'm sure he would do well. Would suck paying a 3-and-D guy $50 million, but oh well. The only pieces left would be a bench and another wing, or maybe a big four who can slide to the 5 when Embiid's out. Not to mention, if their pick this year lands top 6 and they get the rights to it, that's a whole lot. That's a whole other layer onto it all. They still have a ton of work to do with Embiid as he's regressing, but I don't think it's too crazy to think that they'll be a decent enough team, maybe dark horse contenders for a while if they play their cards right. They're just having a season from hell. I don't think this is another Nets situation. P.S. If I didn't talk about if Embiid was forced to retire, I think that's an obvious get-out-of-jail-free card. Well, I agree with the sentiment that their young guards are something to build on. It's nowhere near the foundation, but it's a lot better than a lot of teams' foundation is when they start a rebuild, so that's a good jumping-off point. They also didn't trade like an exceptional amount of their first-round picks in the future like a lot of other teams did buying into their future, not that they didn't do some of them. Hence why this pick has a protection on it right now. But they got assets. They might end up getting a bunch of financial flexibility if they are, forcing Embiid to retire, as tragic as that shit would be. Paul George is probably untradeable. He's just going to have the same situation as Bradley Beal in Phoenix, where it's like, yep, that guy's in Phoenix until his contract is over. The other guy you didn't even mention in this is Quentin Grimes. I think it's possible for them to bring Quentin Grimes back. It might be difficult, but if they did, if you could theoretically, if you're just being the most optimistic guy you could possibly be, and you say Paul George is going to improve next year and be more healthy consistently, at least he'll be like a good defender, a good shooter, and he can be like a 15-point per game guy. Efficient 15 and good defense is better than nothing for sure. Have your starting lineup be Tyrese Maxey, Jared McCain, Quentin Grimes, who is 6'5", which is a little short for a small forward, but I think it's fine. Paul George at the 4 and Joel Embiid at the 5. You have 2.5 good point of attack defenders there. You have a great defense, a good enough defense, and you have a lot of firepower offensively. You have 4 guards/forwards who all shoot the 3 ball exceptionally well around Embiid. So I think there is the foundations of something great there. However, you are being optimistic. From Michael Foster, I really don't like the idea of the Thunder trading for KD this offseason at least. First off, yes, it would absolutely rule to see KD return. There would be a great chance of helping him bring a championship, but I personally think it would be much more cool to see them win a championship by building and developing the team so soon after blowing it up. The fact that they have a shot to make or win the finals after cashing out all on the PG trade assets is insane. I get 100% where you're coming from. And if you're a Thunder fan, and I got a lot of pushback from Thunder fans about this idea that I'm so obsessed with Kevin Durant going back to OKC, I just simply love storytelling, and that's the reason I like it. I don't agree with the sentiment that it's the most practical decision by any means. There's a lot of reasons to not go in that direction. I am, in terms of that take, I'm leading with what I want, not necessarily what I think will happen or what even necessarily should happen. Just what I would like to see, and that is exactly it. But the OKC Thunder have been one of my favorite teams in the league, and if Kevin Durant brought the Kevin Durant baggage, and I don't mean how he gets to his jump shot, and he blew that shit up, oh man, I don't think that man could ever show his face in Oklahoma City again. That, if you fuck up this dynasty, oh god, it would be funny. And it'd give me more fuel to be a hater, but as much as I've hated on Kevin Durant throughout my YouTube career, I want the guy's story to be good. Almost all of my grievance with him is how he has done a very poor job of shaping what the narrative of his career will be. Not all of it was him, a lot of it was circumstantial, but at the end of the day, it is on him. And this could be a move that would make his story substantially better. And I care more about that, having an all-time great have a better place in history than they originally did. I care about that more than this OKC team, just personally. But I completely understand if you're against the idea. It's perfectly fine. From Andrea, MVP should not be considered when evaluating a player's legacy. Being in MVP discussions in the first place should be, but actually winning versus coming in second, third, etc. should not matter over how well they were actually playing. Nothing that is decided in any part by Kendrick Perkins should not... Anything that is decided in any part by Kendrick Perkins should not affect a player's legacy. Championships, great moments, and stats are all the more important thing in my opinion. Also, the MVP discussion always gets toxic unless it's a runaway case, which hasn't happened since 2016 Curry. Yeah, I agree 100%. I hate the MVP debate. I titled my video about it this year like the MVP debate is annoying again. Seem to piss off more people and annoy them, so I've kind of proved my point exactly that, yeah, the discourse sucks. Here's evidence right there. I do think I probably could have tempered myself a little bit more before reacting. I kind of got out of bed mad about this and just immediately recorded. But at the end of the day, I still do stand by my opinion that SGA should win MVP this year. And a big, big part of that is I just don't... It's the same reason that I was a Harden over Russ guy in 2017. The arbitrary, 0.2 more assists per game that gets him into the triple-double average versus what he was at before doesn't mean a fucking thing to me. The reason that Jokic's season this year has been remarkable is how good he has shot the basketball on top of everything else that he's done, because his three ball and his mid-range game has just been he's one of the higher percentile jump shooters in the entire NBA. Even if his volume isn't that crazy, he makes you pay when he takes them. So that element being added to the game is crazy. But other than that, it's literally a matter of a few more points per game and less than one assist per game. Yeah, actually, last year it's 1.3 from the year before that, but he averaged 9.8 assists in 2023, 24.5 points per game, 11.8 rebounds, 9.8 assists. I don't think that Jokic is a meaningfully better player now because he averages 0.5 more assists per game. And it is, I think the triple-double element of this is getting brought up a lot. And I understand it is the third time or third player who's done it. It's ridiculous to average a triple-double, but for me, I don't think Jokic has gotten that much better as a basketball player. So I'm not that inclined to be like, well, give this guy yet another MVP. If I thought this was some significant leap from his previous MVP seasons and I didn't already think he was the greatest offensive player of all time and one of the 15 best players of all time, then I would feel differently. But I am so affirmed in how good of a basketball player Nikola Jokic is that I do not feel the need to campaign for him to get yet another MVP that won't end with a championship, so his legacy can end up looking like 1 title and 5 MVPs, and a bunch of people get to do a bunch of horse shit